Hello everyone, this is the 9th in the series of controversial Davenings of the High Holidays, and today we're going to deal with the issue of how many Slichos do you say on Erev Yom Kippur. So everybody knows that an Erev Rosh Hashanah is the longest Slichos for Ashkenazim. However, what do we do on Erev Yom Kippur? So Erev Yom Kippur, the Ramah brings two customs. Even before dawn, you don't say many Slichos on Erev Yom Kippur. But there are places but there are places like Erev Rosh Hashanah that you say a lot of Slichos. You're going into Yom Kippur, just like you're going into Rosh Hashanah. And therefore, there's two customs, to say a lot or to say the least. And the question is, what is this machlokes based on? The Levush comes along and says, you don't say Tachanun on Erev Yom Kippur. Don't think this is just in Ashmoret Haboker, an hour before dawn, or from Chatzot till dawn when you say Slichos. Velo biyotzer. Even at Shachris, you also don't say Tachanun. In other words, there's no Tachanun at all on Erev Yom Kippur. On the other hand, the Shulchan Aruch says, "En noflim opnehem be'erev Yom Kippurim." He doesn't say don't do it in Slichos. All he says is on Erev Yom Kippur, probably meaning the morning, you don't say Tachanun. So it seems like the machlokes is a very simple one. Does Erev Yom Kippur, namely from night of the 9th all the way till the beginning of Yom Kippur, when the fast begins, have a status of a certain yontiv, where you will not say Tachanun, or no? Partially it does, but not totally. What do I mean? Famous Gemara, we all know it. The Gemara in Masechet Rosh Hashanah says that the pasuk tells us, "V'initem et nafshotechem betisha b'chodesh ba'erev," and you shall begin Yom Kippur on the 9th in the evening. And the Gemara says, "V'chi betisha mitanina lo be'asiri mitanin." We don't fast on the 9th of Tishrei, we fast on the 10th of Tishrei. Rather to say to you, rather whoever eats and drinks on the 9th of the Tishrei, what we call Erev Yom Kippur, it's like he fasted for 2 days. So we all know there's a mitzvah to eat on Erev Yom Kippur. That's what the Gemara says, based on the pasuk that says the experience of Yom Kippur begins on the 9th. On the 9th you eat, on the 10th you don't eat. Question is, what's the purpose of this mitzvah of eating on Erev Yom Kippur? Comes along Rashi and says it's a preparation for the next day. Get yourself ready on the 9th so that you'll be able to fast on the 10th. In other words, eat on the 9th, that you'll have food and resources in your stomach to fast on the 10th. Comes along the Shibbolei Haleket, just like Rashi, but says the opposite. The pasuk never says to go ahead and fast, it says to afflict yourself. So comes along the Shibbolei Haleket and says your affliction will go up if you eat a lot the day before and you eat nothing the next day. Namely, you go from one extreme to the other. So whether you like Rashi's explanation, it's to fast easier, or whether you like the Shibbolei Haleket who says, no, it's to fast harder, the bottom line is, the mitzvah to eat is to prepare yourself for Yom Kippur the next day. Comes along, however, a medrash in Bereshit Rabbah, and says, or we have a bind, Itlan Chad Yom, there's one day, of all the days of the year, we come along, this day comes along, and gives us total atonement. And we don't have the obligation to give it respect by eating and by drinking? The answer is no, because it's Yom Kippur, we're not allowed to eat and drink. But theoretically, because it's a yontiv, we should have done what we do on Erev Yontiv. We honor it by having big meals. So comes along the Shari Tshuva of Rabbeinu Yonah, and says that the reason why we have a big meal on Erev Yom Kippur is because Hirasim Chato Behegias Man Kaparato is to show the joy that the Day of Atonement has come and God is about to give us total atonement. Every other Yontiv we make a meal, but only because it's a fast day. So we do an Erev Yom Kippur meal in place of the meal we should have had on Yom Kippur. From this perspective, it's not a preparation for the next day. It has its own status. It's in place of the Yontiv in the sense of eating and drinking that we should have done the next day. So when we do the eating and drinking in honor of Yom Kippur, B'Tish'ah on the 9th, and then we fast on the 10th, and we do all the prohibitions of Yom Kippur on the 10th, and now we understand the pasuk that it starts on the 9th and it ends on the 10th. So the machlokes is, does Erev Yom Kippur have the status of a yontiv? Namely, it's part of the Yom Kippur experience, albeit it only has the eating and drinking aspect, or no? Erev Yom Kippur means nothing. It's just a preparation for the next day. You should eat and drink so you have resources, or you should eat and drink so it will be harder to fast the next day, which is better according to the Shibolei Haleket. Now we can understand the two minhagim. If you say Erev Yom Kippur is a yontiv, then you shouldn't say Tachanun not only in the daytime so you'll have time to eat, but rather even the night before. So if you have Slichos at midnight, it's the night before, you shouldn't say Tachanun because it's part of the 9th of Tishrei, which is a yontiv, where you have an obligation to eat and drink. But if you say it's just a preparation for the next day, then it doesn't start at night. You can eat all you want at night. There won't be a preparation for the fast day. The preparation for the fast day would be right before the fast, namely during the daytime hours, not the night before. And now we can understand the two customs in the Ramah. If you say that the mitzvah of eating and drinking starts at night because the 9th has a status of a yontiv, then you wouldn't say long slichos even if they're said at night. But if you say no, the whole reason why we have short slichos is you have more time to eat and drink, then that's only during the day, because only during the day is there indeed a preparation for the next day. Because if you eat and drink at night, it will be meaningless for your fast. But if you eat and drink closer to the fast, namely during the daytime hours, then it will have some effect on your fast on the 10th. So we saw two minhagim in the Ramah, and they're probably based on this. Does Erev Yom Kippur have a status of a yontiv from night to night, namely from the 9th, starting at dawn on the 9th, the night before Yom Kippur, or no, it's just a preparation for the fast, which would only be limited to the daytime hours. And based on that, we understand the two minhagim. Namely, do you need to give people more time to eat and drink, which would only be if they say slichos during the day, or no? You could say slichos at night, long, and then during the day you'll have plenty of time to eat and drink. But if you say it has the status of a yontiv, you will not go ahead and say long slichos at night, because it will take away and defray from the yontiv. Now you can understand the machlokes between the Shulchan Aruch and the Levush. The Shulchan Aruch says not to say Tachanun only Erev Yom Kippur, meaning during the day, namely give them more time to eat and drink during the day and during the day only. But the Levush says no, even from the night before, you wouldn't. So, two minhagim, long slichos or short slichos, probably based on what is the status of Erev Yom Kippur.